Ah, look a little bit better on video. I just wanted to share this beauty with y'all.
What's up, y'all? Now, y'all see I'm finishing off that ambrosia smoothie, right? So now we're gonna talk about whole grains, and I'm gonna share what my sourdough look like. But we also gonna continue some conversation with what I'm reading about Joseph Campbell. I might even get into some Plutarch, superpower breathing for life. You know what I'm saying? Hey, I'm getting it in. See you in a second. Fam, how y'all doing? All right, good morning. I know y'all like, brother, I think we ain't eating like a boss this morning. No, that boss eating ain't. It ain't the boss eating. It's all the other eating. I gotta get back under control. I gotta get back to my intermittent fasting. Um, I had a break long enough, and I am suffering, family. You know, it's been what 4 days since I've been off. Since I've been off my fast, I ain't been good, right? And my body ain't been reacting right, right? So I was in such a hurry to get off the fast, right? In preparation and stuff like that, that I didn't pay attention to how you break a fast, right? Now, family, just for future reference, because we're gonna be fasting together, right? Yesterday, I decided that Kuji Chagalia would be a day of fasting for me to celebrate my birthday, the day that I'm born on, the principle that I'm born on, celebrate all those principles. Part of that for me is I'm going to sacrifice myself unto myself, right? You know, every sacrifice for me, right? Um, and one of the things that I'm studying, of course, y'all know, is African openness to the tree of life. And because I'm working on mastering habits, you know, because like in a sense, I mastered my appetite. I let it go a little bit, you know, but now I can master it again. I'm going through the chapter on sacrifice uh, in the African openness to the tree of life. And it's called Exercises in Sacrifice. And the one that I'm working on yesterday, because I'm rather than doing it the night of, I'm doing it the morning of. Like so, right now, instead of being on 7:21 this morning, I'll fill in some of the stuff. I'm reviewing 7:20 right now, right? So the proverb for yesterday, and I'm doing this one because this one was a powerful proverb. It says, "What does not strengthen should be released, for it is a false treasure." Right? And I always got to reflect on some of the false treasures. You know what I'm saying? What is not strengthening me? You know what I'm saying? I need to be released, right? So, there's a lot of foods in our lives that are not strengthening us. There's a lot of drinks in our lives that are not strengthening us, right? There's a lot of people in our lives that are not strengthening us that we need to let go. There's a lot of concepts that we are holding on to that are not strengthening us. It says, "What does not strengthen should be released, for it is a false treasure." Right? See, when I talk about going through the 21-day challenge, family, I'm not playing, right? The stuff that comes to you is just ridiculous. And if I have time, man, I'm going to share some of the because now what I done did was I done expand beyond just the folk tales from Aesop. I done got into some true African folk tales, some African and African American folk tales, right? And when I say true, right, what I mean is that the stories that we told, y'all gotta excuse me, I just drunk some baking soda. It's like I said, um, some of the stories that we have been told, or that we used to tell, we used to have endings where it would cause a debate, right? Because debating or discussion, not even debating, discussion was an important part of our culture. We discussed to discuss, not even to get to an end, but sometimes just to talk, right? Just to build the community. But then within that, the order within the community will become important. You understand what I'm saying? The respect for elders will become important, right? The respect for people older than you, and the respect for people's level of intelligence, and the respect for your ability to weave words, right? Your word magic was very important. And a lot of us, we don't have that no more. Why? Because we got ourselves out of the cultural appropriate way of discussing, because all of our discussions now, we just want to discuss to prove our point to be right, right? Rather than discuss and discuss. We want to go from point A to point B when it didn't work for us like that. Like I said before, in the way we do it in the West is from here to here. The way we did it in Africa was from here to here, to where elder would stop it, or elder would pull a lesson out that everybody need, right? Somebody of rank, somebody who have earned that respect, right, will be able to do it, right? And we need to be clear. There's a difference between an older and an elder. All right, cool. So let's go and get on. I'm gonna finish that. But all right. So now, the issue at hand today is whole grains, right? So as y'all know, I'm a big advocate for culturally appropriate diets. Once again, as y'all know, I'm a big component of culturally appropriate stuff, right? Especially foods. So one of the things that I stress is, one, for black folks to get on the African American, not African heritage diet, right? Why is that what I think? Because one, it connects us to the food that help pull us through, right? And what I mean pull us through is, these are foods that, in a sense, we form relationships with and built culture around, right? Culture needs food, right? Culture and food, they go hand in hand, right? So one of the distinct ways that people separate themselves, right, or at least help identify themselves, is the foods that they eat, all right? Because it connects them with nature, right? Because you get your food from the universe out here, right? So there's certain foods that were developed for certain people, right? The food came along, the people came along, and they worked together, and they survived together, right? Like us and the yam, black folks and the yam. You know what I'm saying? We have a unique relationship because we enabled the yam to survive, and the yam enabled us to survive. There was a give and take there, right? And one of the things that is on the African heritage diet, when you go through the links that I give you, is whole grain and flour. And they go barley, millet, oats, sorghum, brown rice, wild rice, cornmeal, teff, and whole grain flours. Breads, flatbreads, and other breads, mostly whole grain, right? So there's this piece about what people are telling us, oh man, we don't need to be eating no whole grains. You know, boom, boom, boom. You know, it's like, this, that, boom, boom, is unhealthy and all that. So let's go and look at this. I want to look at this, right? Grain Free Books. This is from Old Ways. Old Ways is the company that helped create or got people looking to culturally appropriate foods. So, Old Ways is a group of individuals, a business, I guess, that came together and they started looking at the health benefits of people being honest with themselves and being like, shit, culturally, I'm Greek. So I should be eating Greek food. Culturally, I'm African. I'm of African descent from this part of Africa. I should be eating this type of food. And they saw that there was something going on when people embraced their cultural roots, right? And went back and started eating the foods that they were, that in a sense provided them with the nutrients, the specific nutrients for their people that they needed, right? All right, so grain-free cookbooks and celebrities may cause a stir, but ask Americans what they really think is healthy, and you might be pleasantly surprised. Each year, the International Food Information Council (IFIC) surveys Americans on their attitudes towards health and nutrition. This year, whole grains are way up the list of components considered to be helpful by consumers. Now, that means nothing, right? Because we know that a lot of people just go with the fast, right? So, but let's go. Following only vitamin D, 88%, and fiber. In fact, the percentage of people recognizing whole grains as helpful is significantly higher than is higher than last year. Acting on this knowledge, more than 65% of consumers reports that they are eating more foods with whole grain compared to the years past. This isn't hard to do, as quinoa salads, granola parfait are seemingly. I apologize. All right. Quinoa salads and granola parfaits are seemingly around the corner, but while much attention has been given to health-conscious millennials, IFIC finds that other adults, about ages 50 to 80 in particular, are more likely to eat more foods with whole grains than 18 to 49-year-olds. Although foodies tout the flavor and texture of whole grains, IFIC finds that American health culture is preoccupied with weight loss. And given the prevalence of diet-related diseases in our country, the enthusiasm is not entirely unwarranted. However, most people surveyed, 60%, could not name a single food or nutrient associated with weight loss, which could explain why weight is such a struggle for many people across the country. Of course, no one food is a dietary savior or a villain, but people who consistently eat balanced diets with whole grains tend to weigh less than people who don't. In fact, some research suggests that whole grains actually help your body burn more calories without exercising more. Following weight management, IFC survey respondents cite heart health as a top motivator for eating healthier. But like a deer in the headlights, Americans are frozen with indecision, not knowing what to eat. As half of the respondents, 49%, could not name a food or nutrient associated with heart health. Again, whole grains may help, offer some protection in this department. Research has found that increasing whole grain intake by about 3 servings per day is linked to 19 to 22% lower risk of heart disease. To better understand the wide range of benefits from eating more whole grain food, check out our new handout below. You can even print it and stick it on the fridge for a daily reminder. Go to always.org. Alright, always.org. They are always producing some pretty good stuff. Whole grains are good for you from the head to the toe, from the rooter to the tutor. Alright, here we go. Whole grains are linked with the less inflammation, ranking best among all 37 food group studies, the slower cognitive decline in aging. Healthy diets with some whole grains may also reduce the risk of Alzheimer's disease by up to 54%. Now, I'm saying whole grains. I need y'all to understand. I'm not talking about that processed shit. Whole grains. Quinoa. Whole wheat. Not just brown wheat. Whole. It got to have the word not HOLE. WHOLE. Whole wheat. Whole grains. Right? You want the germ. You want the whole goddamn grain. Stop allowing them to give you pieces of shit. Right? Because man has a way of stripping shit. Because what they do is they'll give you part of something and sell the other part of something else. Right? You need to start looking at whole grains, family. Let's start looking at whole grains. Let's start working on getting whole grains into our diet. Greater serving. All right, here we go. So they give you a little chart. You hang it up on there. Tell you what it does. So I'm going to read around the chart. Those eating the most whole grains had 14% lower risk of stroke than those eating least whole grains. Greater servings of whole grains at breakfast are significantly related to higher scores in reading, comprehension, and fluency, and math in elementary students. Increasing whole grain food intake by about 3 servings is linked with 19 to 22% lower risk of heart disease. Fiber from whole grain is thought to be the most protective type of fiber against type 2 diabetes. For every additional 10 grams of total fiber or cereal fiber, the fiber in whole grains, the risk of type 2 diabetes is 9% or 25% lower respectively. Family, whole grain. And I'm not talking about the cereal. Get the real stuff. Start reading whole grains, all right? I'm replacing 5% of daily calories from the saturated fat like butter, cream, and red meat with whole grains is associated with 9% lower risk of heart disease. Whole grains can help improve gut bacteria. Patients on statins who also eat more than 1 serving of whole grains per day have non-HDL cholesterol, a combination of LDL and VLDL, or bad cholesterol levels that are 11 micrograms lower than those taking statins but not eating as much whole grain. Those eating the most whole grain have a lower BMI, waist circumference, are less likely to be overweight or obese. Live longer with whole grains compared to people who eat the least whole grains. People who eat the most whole grains have 16 to 18% lower risk of death from the cause of 18% lower risk of death from heart disease, 12% lower risk of death from cancer. Alright, now, you know I'm not one for the percentages, alright, but, alright. Dissatisfied with certain aspects of industrial high-processed food systems, some people are turning to earlier models of eating centered on wholesome foods and ingredients, but embracing traditional diets means embracing a diet with more whole grain, not fewer. Misguided dieters who avoid these nutritious, sustainable food groups are putting themselves at risk of not only nutrient deficiencies, but possibly chronic disease and weight problems as well. Using National Health Survey data from 9,340 adults in Australia, researchers found that people avoiding core grain foods were significantly more likely to be overweight or obese. than those who eat grains. Despite consuming fewer calories than grain eaters, grain avoiders also ate fewer fruits, vegetables, and less fiber. After adjusting for age, sex, and calorie intake, avoiding grains was also linked with a higher BMI and waist parts. Part of this could be attributed to whole grain beneficial effects on metabolism. Whole grains are an essential part of the healthy diet, even if you have medically diagnosed problems with gluten. Gluten-free doesn't mean grain-free. In fact, most whole grains are naturally gluten-free. However, for those without a medically diagnosed gluten issue, such as celiac disease, the support for gluten-free and low-gluten diets appears to be far more fad than fact. In studies of more than 100,000 U.S. adults without celiac disease, followed more than 25 years, researchers found that eating gluten was not related to heart disease risk. In fact, the researchers cautioned that avoiding gluten may result in eating fewer whole grain foods, which may in turn pose a risk for heart disease. Similar in research presented at the American Heart Association 2017 scientific session, scientists at Harvard found that eating lower amounts of gluten is related to a higher risk of type 2 diabetes. In fact, in the top 20% in gluten intake were 13% less likely to get type 2 diabetes over the 30-year study period. Even after adjusting for family history, exercise habit, weight, and calorie intake, this may be because gluten-free foods are often made with substitutes like potato starch and tapioca that can make blood sugar spike. Research on gluten sensitivity has also cast some doubts on the usefulness of gluten-free diet for a wider population. Many patients who respond well to gluten-free diets but don't test positive for celiac disease are thought to have a problem tentatively dubbed non-celiac gluten sensitivity. In a new study, researchers in Spain analyzed data from 10 studies comprising 1,312 adults, all of which were double-blind, placebo-controlled gluten challenges, meaning that neither the researcher nor the participant knew if they were getting a gluten-free diet or a gluten-containing placebo. Only 16% of non-celiac gluten-sensitive patients showed gluten-specific symptoms when exposed to gluten-containing diet, and 40% of them had similar or increased symptoms when on gluten-free controlled diet. The researchers concluded that these results cast doubt on gluten as the culprit food component in most patients with presumptive non-celiac gluten sensitivity, undermining the name of this syndrome. Whole grains have been at the core of traditional diets for millennia, and more we learn about nutrition, it is easy to see why. Rather than picking up a highly processed grain-free or gluten-free snack food, which requires a lot of gum and additives to make the texture appealing, opt for quinoa salad or a bowl of oatmeal instead. You will thank you. Alright, now, family, what I'm about to share with you is my foray into the bread market. Right? I'm using whole wheat. I want to show you this. Now, what we have here, this is my bowl. And what I have in here is my sourdough. Now, I want y'all to look at that. Right? And I know y'all like, Brother Tim, that's ugly. But it's alive. See all those bubbles? That let you know that this is active. It's alive. Right? And I have to feed it once a week if I keep it in the refrigerator to keep it alive so that it will produce the product. Now, what is the ingredients for this? The ingredients for this is whole wheat and that ambrosia. Yep, that ambrosia and whole wheat made this. Now, this is alive. It has to be fed flour and water, or I could add more that ambrosia. And you see it's bubbly and alive. I had it sitting out because I'm about to make another batch of bread. Now, the issue with the last bread was I wasn't able to taste it. But this one, I'm going to be able to sample all the way through. So we are going to make the honey cakes, and we're going to make a loaf or two of regular bread. All right. So especially that piece of bread. Yeah. I know how to make it thinner now. So we're going to work on it. All right. So I wanted to share that with y'all. All right. Let me go and put the top back on. Cover it back up so it could be ready when I come home tonight. All right. So there you go. All right. So I shared a little piece of gye-nyame word with you, right? With that. So now let's get into the other part of the discussion, right? Oh, don't want it to lean. So I'm still on my 21-day challenge. I'm gonna get back control of my diet. Right now, I'm mastering a habit, and we all the way up to Nia family, and I am not struggling with the tobacco habit that I had before. I've been getting up. Oh, that felt so good. Woo, that felt good. I'm sorry, family. I'm telling you, because after, like I said, we have to work on breaking the fast properly. So that's gonna be the next one of the things that I talk about. We talked about fasting. Now we're gonna talk about the importance of breaking a fast. All right. So I'm gonna finish the paperwork for today. Also, this is available online as well. I shared some of this, but now let's get into this Joseph Campbell piece, man. Look, so right now I'm reading The Hero with 1,000 Faces. I'm listening to a book called The Superorganism. I'm reading about Harriet Tubman. I know y'all like, Brother Hatim, what all this got to do with, all this got to do with each other. You studying diet, you studying myth, folklore, studying Harriet Tubman, you studying Plutarch's parallel lives, right? What that got to do? You studying the power of breathing. You know what I'm saying? We done talked about all this, and you studying African folk tales along with other books that you're running through. What does this have to do with you building curriculum for kids? What does this have to do with your show? What does all this? And that's the key, my friend, right? You have to start learning how to draw lines through different areas of study and align it up with what you're doing, right? Now, let me share something from this book right here. Breathing, right? This is from the world famous Bragg family, right? For those that don't know, the Daddy Bragg was one of the pioneers in the health field, right? So he left a business to his daughter. Now, oxygen and your health, oxygen starvation, right? Oxygen is essential to the ionization process in which food molecules are broken down into nutrients suitable for the body's vital needs. Without sufficient oxygen, your body cannot properly utilize the food you eat and drink, no matter how basically nourishing the food may be. With an insufficient supply of life-giving oxygen, your bloodstream becomes saturated with poisonous carbon dioxide and other toxic waste. Now, I could kind of argue that, you know what I'm saying? Because in some cases, your body does need the carbon dioxide. It's not just a waste gas, right? But we'll talk about that, you know. It transports these toxins throughout your body, collecting more en route, thereby suffocating your cell, also dulling brain cells. Now, too much carbon dioxide can't do that, right? Instead of rejuvenating them with sufficient life-giving oxygen, your brain, which requires 3 times more oxygen than the rest of your body, suffers first. This warning was stated by top child specialist with delinquent children. Now listen, because you want to know what this got to do with what I do at school, what this got to do with young people, right? 55% of delinquent behavior in minors can be attributed to oxygen starvation. 55% of delinquent behavior in minors can be attributed to oxygen starvation. What was the first thing? What was one of the first things before the summer even started that we started talking about with breath? Most of us aren't breathing right. Right? So this is what, you know what I'm saying? If I want to get my kids right, if I want to get my families right, I got to make sure that they are breathing culturally appropriate. They're not breathing right. If they're not breathing right, they can't assimilate the food. If they can't assimilate the food, they're not healthy. If they're not healthy, right, their body is pumping poison. And if it's poison, they're going to have poison reactions. Right? So I can do all the behavior intervention that I want. You know what I'm saying? I can come up with all types of clever mouse traps, but I'm still going to keep on having problem kids. Why? Because the kids aren't breathing right. If they're not breathing right, they can't think right. And if they can't think right, they can't act right. And if they can't act right, they can't learn right. And if they can't learn right, they fucking up my future. Fucking up your future. Right? Because we're not teaching our children culturally appropriate shit. Right? So now let's look at Plutarch, right? So now, one of the reasons I review this book, at least a piece of it, every year. So I'm going through Plutarch's Parallel Lives. Once again, I'm looking at Lycurgus, right? You know, all those that love 300. This is Sparta. And I keep on telling y'all, right? You know what I'm saying? Let's go back to page 4. Let me go back. I want to share. All right, because so now he's basically what Parallel Lives is, for those that don't know. Parallel Lives is where this dude by the name of Plutarch went through Western history, and he compares the leaders, the shakers, the culture formers, the nation builders. He compares their actions. So he'll give you the story of one, then he'll give you the story of the other, and then on the third part, he'll go through and he'll break down the benefits of one, the benefits of the other, and he weighs it and he decides on which one was best. Right? So you have an individual that is uplifting the culture by going through and looking at cultural heroes and pulling out the best qualities from each one of them for future generations to look at and be like, well, goddamn, that was wow. And this book has been forming secretly for a lot of y'all that don't, y'all don't read. This book has been secretly influencing Western leadership all over the world, right? Because he covers. Let me just go through a list of who's in this is just volume 1. Thelius, Romulus, the comparison, Lycurgus, Numa, Pompilus, the comparison, Salome, Polycolo, Demosthenes, Camillus, Persiles, Fabius, Alcibiades, Cornelis. Y'all ain't heard of none of these people, right? But these people set up set up. Let me put it this way: they set up Western civilization, right? These individuals were kings or head statesmen that laid out the framework for Western civilization. Period. Right? Marcellus, Aristides, Marcus Cato, Philip Geminus, Flaminus, I can't pronounce some of these names, right? This is just chapter one, right? This dude went through. I mean, he got maybe this volume one. I think it's 2 volumes, maybe 3 volumes, where he breaks down all of these leaders, all the way up to Caesar, Alexander the Great. Got Alexander the Grape, Alexander the Macedonian, right? That he goes through and he breaks it down. All right, so now I told y'all that like he went through. The Egyptians say that he took a voyage into Egypt. This is about Lycurgus, and that being much taken with their way of separating soldiery from the rest of the nation, he transferred it from them to Sparta, a removal from contact with those employed in low and mechanical occupation, giving high refinement and beauty to the state. All right, so the whole framework of the military came from, once again, I shared that with you before, but this is what I want to share with you now. Culture. All right, Lycurgus was of the persuasion that children were not so much the property of their parents as of the whole commonwealth, and therefore would not have his citizens begot by the first comer, but by the best men that could be found. The laws of other nations seemed to him very absurd and inconsistent, where people would be so solicitous for their dogs and horses as to exert interest and to pay money to procure fine breeding, and yet kept their wives shut up to be made mothers only by themselves, who might be foolish, infirm, or diseased, as if it were not apparent that children of a bad breed will prove their bad qualities first upon those who kept and were rearing them, and well-born children in like manner their good qualities. Basically, what he was saying was, Lycurgus set up the Spartan society so that only supposedly the best individuals will breed, because he believed that if you spent time in your society, if you spent more time in your society picking who you will allow your dog to mate with or who you will allow your horse to mate with, but didn't spend any time in picking the proper parents for children to produce healthy children, you were becoming a detriment to society. Did you hear me? Now hold on. Let's go back to this. All right. So, all of y'all heard of Leonidas, right? Leonidas, right? Leonidas, 300, right? Okay. Yeah, y'all seen the movie. Don't be acting like you ain't seen the movie, right? All right. So, Leonidas' wife. All right. Hence, it was natural for them to think and speak as Gorgo, for example, the wife of Lee. All right, boom, boom, boom. Let's go back. Those that were thus commended went away proud, elated and gratified with their honor among the maidens, and those who were rallied were as sensibly touched with it as if they had been formerly reprimanded, and so much more. So they talk about how the women would come together and they would sing praises for men that uplifted the culture and followed the rules. And then how the women would also sing songs to kind of check somebody. You know what I'm saying? So the women played a major part in the formation of the culture. Now I'm doing this because I'm culture building, right? Right? Now hold on, check this out. Because I talked about this before, years ago. Boom. Nor was there anything shameful in the nakedness of young women. Modesty attended them, and all wantonness was excluded. It taught them simplicity and care for good health, and gave them some taste of higher feelings, admitted as they thus were to the field of noble action and glory. Hence, it was natural for them to think and to speak as Gorgo, for example, the wife of Leonidas, is said to have done when some foreign lady, as it would seem, told her. Now they enacted this in the movie, right? But I'll get to that. When some foreign lady, as it would seem, told her that women of Lacedaemon, which was the name of Sparta, were the only women in the world who could rule men. Now check out this response. With good reason, she said, for we are the only women who bring forth men. Now I want you to understand, right? This is what impresses me about this shit, right? Culturally, these women were brought up to believe, without a shadow of a doubt, that nobody else gave birth to men but Spartan women. I want you to understand the mind state. I don't give a damn if it's the Spartans or the Zulus. I mean, because if you look at people culturally, right? If you look at people culturally, you're supposed to feel like this, right? She having a conversation, and this woman says, hence, it is natural for them to think and speak as Gorgo. For example, the wife of Leonidas is said to have done when some foreign lady, as it would seem, told her that women of Lacedaemon were the only women in the world who could rule men. With good reason, she said, for we are the only women who bring forth men. God damn it. I want my daughters to feel like that. Right? We need our daughters to feel like that. You know what I'm saying? So now also, these public processions of the maidens and their appearing naked in their exercises and dances were incitements to marriage, operating upon mathematics. Let's skip that part. Moreover, they were denied that respect. All right, well, let's go to the boom, boom. Indictment to marriage, operating upon mathematics. But besides all this, to promote it yet more effectually, those who continue bachelors were in a degree disenfranchised by law. This is about men, right? Men who were bachelors, right? You know, the players, right? Because, you know, you can't have a culture. You can't build a culture with players, right? You know, they were disenfranchised by law, for they were excluded from the sight of those public processions in which the young men and maidens dance naked. And in the wintertime, I'm not saying that we need to dance naked. And in the wintertime, the officers compelled them to march naked themselves round the marketplace, singing as they went a certain song to their own disgrace, that they justly suffered this punishment for disobeying the laws. See, in the law, in the culture, you have to be able to get a woman has to be able to get a man, and they have to be able to have children. And there's some other crazy shit going on because this is Greek. I won't go into that. Disobeying law. Moreover, they were denied that respect and observance which the younger men paid their elders. Now, so if you was a bachelor, think about this. Singing as they went a certain song to their own disgrace, that they justly suffered this punishment for disobeying the laws. Moreover, they were denied that respect and observance which the younger men paid their elders. And no man, for example, found fault with what was said to Dercylus, though so an eminent commander, upon whose approach one day a young man, instead of rising, retained his seat, remarking, "No child of yours will make room for me." Because this dude was a bachelor, because he did not follow the laws, because he did not follow the culture, because he wanted to be a player, because he decided to stay single, because you can't add to the culture if you stay single. When he came to a younger man who in their culture is supposed to rise when wisdom entered the room, the young man refused to rise and said, because none of your kids will ever rise for me, you're not contributing to the culture. Family. God damn it. There's something to be learned in history, right? So now I'm reading, I'm like, damn, boom. How do you apply that? You know what I'm saying? How do you develop this type of esprit de corps? Esprit de corps, right? Within a group to where they feel that the universe revolves around them, right? And that the whole universe, the whole order of the world depends on them doing what they're supposed to do. Alright, so now let's go and finish with this piece, right? So, boom, culture building, right? Here we go, fam. So, I'm on Joseph Campbell. So, I wanted to talk about the hero. The hero. Alright? The hero, therefore, is the man or woman who has been able to battle past his personal or local historical limitations to the generally valid, normally human forms. Such a one's vision, ideas, and inspiration come pristine from the primary spring of human life and thought. Hence, they are eloquent, not of the present disintegrating society and psyche, but that of the unquenched source through which society is reborn. The hero has died as a modern man, but as eternal man, perfected, unspecific, universal man. He has been reborn. His second solemn task, and indeed therefore, is to return then to us, transfigure, and teach the lesson he has learnt of life renewed. Alright. So, now, he's describing the hero and how the hero has to come from a different place, right? Mentally, the hero has to be in a different place. The hero cannot be part of, like some people say, to fix the system, you must go inside the system, and you know what I'm saying. You can't fix some shit from the same mind state that the shit got broke from. You got to come from a different perspective, and this is what the hero brings to society. Hero, it says, the hero, therefore, is the man or woman who has been able to battle past his personal and local historical limitations, right, to the generally valid, normal human form. Such a one's vision, ideas, and inspiration come pristine from the primary spring of human life and thought. Hence, they are eloquent, not of the present disintegrating society and psyche, but of the unquenched source through which society is reborn. Right? They come from a totally different place mentally. They're not where everybody else is. Right? So we have to inspire within our children. We have to inspire within ourselves. Right? That part of us that is kind of outside of the norm. Right? Because that is that part of us that are, in most cases, if it's not crazy, because pretty much so, it would be considered crazy. It sees the world differently, right? The hero sees the world differently. Now, let's get to this. So now this goes to the rituals and the whole communal piece, right? The multitude of men and women choose the less adventurous way of the comparatively unconscious civic and tribal routines. But these seekers too are saved by virtue of the inherent symbolic aids of society. The rites of passage, the grace-yielding sacraments, given to mankind of old by the Redeemers and handed down through the millennia. It is only those who know neither an inner call nor outer doctrine whose plight truly is desperate. That is to say, most of us today. Let me say that again. It is only those who know neither an inner call nor outer doctrine whose plight truly is desperate. That is to say, most of us today, in this labyrinth, without and within the heart, alas, where where is the guide that fine virgin, Eridine, to supply the simple clue that will give us courage to face the Minotaur, and the means then to find our way to freedom when the monster has been met and slain. Alright, so now he's using the story of the Minotaur to kind of describe what's going on here. So let me explain for those that don't know. Minotaur is the bull-headed monster that was placed in a maze by the king. So he goes through this whole piece where the king, because he violated a rule, his wife violated a rule, and the wife got pregnant by a bull. You know what I'm saying? And this bull gave birth to this baby that was a man eater. Right, became dangerous. So rather than just kill him, he built a labyrinth, and he would take children from other countries and drop them in there. And a hero came, and this hero came who saw the world differently and went down in the labyrinth. And because of the king's daughter who gave him aid, right, and gave him courage, he killed the Minotaur. And because of her aid, he was able to find his way out after he killed the bull, right? Many of us, because we don't have the internal spirit nor the external doctrine, we may be able to kill a Minotaur, but we won't be able to find our way out of the labyrinth, out of the confusion. Many of us, we may become heroes in the chaos, but we're not able to find our way out the chaos so that we can translate what we learned and give it back to the world. Because either we ain't have the inner vision, nor do we have the external doctrine to help us out. Right? Now, so let's go and let's just finish this and I'm done. And so now we may turn to him as did Eridine. That's the girl that gave him the little string to lead him out of the labyrinth. The flax for the linen of this thread he has gathered from the fields of the human imagination. Centuries of husbandry, decades of diligent culling, the work of numerous hearts and hands, have gone into the hackling, sorting, and spinning of this tightly twisted yarn. So now, I mean, this is brilliant. Listen. So, what he's saying is that when we look at the hero is saved by the work of the culture, right? The hands, the flax linen of this thread he has gathered from the fields of human imagination, centuries of husbandry, decades of diligent culling, the work of numerous hearts and hands have gone into the hackling, sorting, and spinning of the tightly twisted yarn. So those of you that know the story, you know that the dude was able to get out the labyrinth because the little virgin girl, the king's daughter, gave him some string. And he was able to use the string to find his way back out of the labyrinth once he killed the Minotaur. Right? Now, but what Joseph Campbell is using the string is he's using it as a metaphor for all of the work and all of the years and all the technological advances that humanity has made as a group, right? It's all tied into that string. The work of thousands of hands and thousands of years of husbandry and working in fields and learning to weave this little yarn. All this is going in to help this hero out. So that is, in a sense, the external doctrine, the culture that helps keep this young man in line and helps bring him out whole. The group, the community, right? The cultural appropriate shit, right? That ties him to the exit out of the labyrinth. Because all of us have to go into the labyrinth. All of us have to get crucified. All of us have to have a trial. But how are you going to make it out if you're not connected to something bigger than yourself? All right. Furthermore, we have not to risk the adventure alone. For the heroes of all time have gone before us. The labyrinth is thoroughly known. We have only to follow the thread of the hero path. And where we had thought to find an abomination, we shall find a god. Where we had thought to slay another, we shall slay ourselves. Where we had thought to travel outward, we shall come to the center of our own existence. And where we had thought to be alone, we shall be with all of the world. Damn. Did y'all, did you hear that? Listen, this is Brother Tim. I want to end on that note. And with that, I'm out. Peace. Thank you for watching the video. I want you to subscribe. Click the bird right there, the fiery bird. And I also have a special video just for you, right there. And for those that want more information about gye-nyame Journey, go to our site. It should be right about there.